lessen the dominance of the American dollar. For more on this, I'm joined by Dr. Lauren Johnston, economist with the University of Sydney. Dr. Johnston, why would Donald Trump be so against this idea?
Obviously, the role of the US dollar in the global economy offers America extreme amounts of privilege. It has macroeconomic costs, but it comes with a lot of opportunity and privilege for the US. So any change to that system that happens outside of US driving it or US control of how it changes may not work to America's costs, or to America's benefit, sorry.
And would a new Brics currency rival the US dollar or de-dollarize the world economy?
Well, in fact, the Brics aren't really talking about creating a currency of their own because it's too complex and not very feasible. What they're talking about is using more of their own currencies when they trade with each other, which would perhaps diminish the role of the US dollar within their trade, but not even all of their trade, because it's quite complex. For example, Russia's now selling a lot of oil to India, another Brics member, and Russia is receiving Indian rupees for that amount of oil, and Russia can't really do anything with the rupees. It's not like collecting US dollars. If you collect US dollars or euros, you can spend them all over the world. You can save them. It has a reliable value. But what can Russia do with, billions and billions in rupees? Very, very little. So it's creating, just the euro tells you the complexities of creating a multi-country currency, but one that would include the Brics is far too infeasible. And so really what they're trying to do is just use more of their own currencies bilaterally. But even that can't really threaten the role of the dollar because their currencies can't be used elsewhere. It's not like the dollar. The dollar can be used everywhere. So it's not quite the threatening agenda that perhaps some people fear.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you, where was the progress at before this threat from Trump? Because we know it was already facing hurdles, and there'd also been a fair bit of disagreement within Brics about this local currency idea.
Of course, the Brics all have very different interests. They're such different economies. And in the case of Russia, Russia faces a lot of sanctions, and the role of the US dollar makes it quite hard for Russia to avoid sanctions. So where it might now be able to trade with India in rupees, it can't use those rupees, as I just said. And its interest is in that. Whereas for South Africa, on behalf of Africa, it wants other countries, like now Ethiopia is a member of Brics, and Ethiopia simply doesn't have enough dollars. For all the coffee it sells, it doesn't sell enough coffee to generate enough US dollars so that it can buy everything it needs to buy. So it's not even that those countries want to get rid of the dollar, they can't get enough of the dollar. So they're trying to find ways to trade otherwise, which is a tiny bit different to trying to get rid of the dollar. They're just trying to work out how to access trade given that they don't earn enough dollars, which is very, very different to Russia's agenda and perhaps elements of China's agenda.
So how do you think the Brics nations will view this threat of 100% tariffs on them from Donald Trump? Will they view it as real or a negotiating tactic?
I think it's another one of those throwaway lines that brings attention to an issue, which is the role of the dollar in the global economy. I think it's quite infeasible to add 100% tariff to every Brics country, even if they were trying to create their own currency, which they aren't. If Donald Trump imposed 100% tariffs on Ethiopia, this would make the price of coffee in the US skyrocket. 100% tariffs on the United Arab Emirates, which is also another member of Brics since this year, would increase the cost of fuel and some minerals. From South Africa, that would be diamonds. From Brazil, it would be agricultural products and other commodities. So, this would just have such an erratic inflationary impact on the US that it's probably difficult even to implement. And in any case, they aren't kind of creating their own currency. But perhaps this enables Donald Trump to bring attention to global monetary issues and pressures on the dollar. Perhaps that's part of his strategy. But I think it's infeasible, even were they threatening the dollar, to suddenly implement 100% tariffs across those countries. Just such a random array of goods.
Dr. Lauren Johnston, economist with the University of Sydney. Thank you for speaking with us.
Thanks very much for having me, Gemma.
Australia and Pacific nations will lead a landmark case at the International